Hi, everybody. I just have a few quick announcements about the test. Um, so first of all, we're going to use the Respondus Lockdown browser. What does that mean? It means you need to make sure that you take the test using a computer with a camera. You have to have a camera either on your desktop or take it with a laptop that has a camera. And it means that no worksheets can be live during the test, which is not a problem. The test is designed so that you won't need to use Python. But your study guide, if it's a worksheet, still, you can update it. And when you're happy with your worksheet, print it out. Please print it out, because the only way you're going to be able to access your study guide is if you have a paper copy. All right, so the test opens Thursday at 5 p.m. and it is due Friday before midnight. So take it anytime Thursday evening or anytime Friday. I will try to be as available as I can on Teams if you have any questions or problems. The test is about 35 questions and you get 2 attempts, but notice that on the second attempt, you only face questions that you missed on the first attempt. Okay, so there are about 35 questions, and if you only get 10 questions on the second attempt, it means that you got a lot of things correct, and it's giving you a chance to improve your grade. Okay, so those are kind of the key things that we need to talk about. Okay, so I have already shown you my study guide, and I'm on the back page here of the things that you should include. And let me just point out, this is the only new stuff, right? I said this during the video, but I did not actually put a dot item example on my study guide. And I used dot show, the method show, in my study guide, but I didn't actually make a section for it. So those are 2 items that if you feel you want to include them on your study guide, you need to put them there. Also, at the beginning of the semester, we did talk about data types, float for real numbers and integers, and string variables, okay? And those will also be on the test, and I didn't mention them during the study guide. So I want to switch over to Python here and show you a couple of things. So first of all, if I do type and say I do 7.9, and it says that the type of variable is a float. So that's the computer's way of saying real number. Okay, and it's going to do that anytime there's a decimal point, even if it's a placeholding decimal point, right? What happens when I switch back to 7 without any decimal points? Then it says, hey, that's an integer. Okay, good. I'm glad you know that. And then what happens when I put in some text? Okay, and this is short for string. So any type of text is a string variable. Okay, and so we're allowed to use like int, and I can do 9.845. Okay, and what happens? It it doesn't round. Notice that if it rounded this number properly, the number would be 10. All it does is it goes, finds the decimal point, and it just gets rid of everything to the right of the decimal point and drops the decimal point out, okay? So we also have this method float, and if I do float 2, it just changes it to a 2.0. It just puts a decimal place in so that it knows it's a real number, okay? And what happens if I do integer of something that's already an integer? Sorry, I made a mistake typing there. It doesn't do anything to it. It does not throw an error, okay? And so I just want to remind you of these type of variables. Remember string. Oh, and by the way, can I, what if I do integer of this string variable, integer UNG? It will throw an error. It doesn't know how to turn text into an integer. And I'm pretty sure it doesn't know how to do it for a float either. Yeah, so the integer and float will only work if I input a number. Okay, so if the input is text, it just freaks out. okay? And you can actually use string, right? String, and it will turn the thing, this number that I put into it, into text. That's a 2, okay? So we don't use these very often, but I did want to show you that, and I wanted to show you type UNG, okay? And then what about items? So if we have a array of say 2 and 4 and 8 and 15, right? So that is going to be our array, right? And if I do x dot item 0, what happens? Oh, it pulls up the first thing. Remember, the computer starts counting at 0. So if I put in item 3, it actually brings the 15. We think, oh, the third item, 1 is 2, and the first item is 2, and the second item is 4, and the third item is 8. Nope. Remember, item 0 is 2, item 1 is 4, item 2 is 8, and so item 3 is 15. And if I ask it for item 4, it freaks out, right? It's going to throw an error. Okay, so what's going to be the answer if I do item 1? It's going to pick up the fourth one. Why? Because item 0 is the first thing. So I did want to show the .item method as an example, and I wanted to remind you about these types of variables, the strings. Remember, float's a real number and represented in the computer by anything with a decimal point, including a useless decimal point of 2.0. While in fact that feels like an integer, it it has a decimal point, so the computer thinks it's a real number, thinks it's a float. And of course, a string variable, we can turn numbers into text. Okay, so just a few quick reminders and a little bit of a review of some material. And good luck, everybody, on the midterm. I hope you do very well.